Before I start this video, I know that I'm a little late to the party. By a couple weeks. This video took a long time to write, and I kind of live a kind of busy life, and this was much of a passion project and a side project, and I'm just glad to be getting it out. So sorry it didn't come out when I wanted it to, and I think this video could have done better if it were to come out during the time when, you know, the Snyder Cut was relevant. But whatever. On with the video. Disclaimer, this video talks about the Snyder Cut of Justice League. If you prefer you experience it without it being spoiled, which, considering how long it's been since it came out, you probably already seen it, but just if you haven't, please leave the video. But if you want to hear a high schooler ramble about how to run a multi-billion-dollar franchise, keep watching, because I think I have an idea that can make DC movies a little bit more unique and keep it interesting. So, part 1. Overall thoughts on the original theatrical release. To talk about the Snyder Cut, I think I should talk about its theatrical counterpart. The 2017 Justice League was technically directed by two people, Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder. Josh came into the production when Zack had to leave because of a personal tragedy. Zack had filmed a lot of the movie, but the studio hired Josh to finish the job. If you don't know anything about the recent styles of directing, Josh has a witty, lighthearted, and sometimes childish tone to his movies. And Zack Snyder likes dynamic lights, sex in slow motion, and also sometimes blood splatters. I was super excited for this because I was really just ready for the true sequel to BVS. I wanted another scene of Ben Affleck's ass. I wanted to see more citizens getting burnt to a crisp, and then, well, they got shot and then they got burnt to a crisp, but whatever. Just to let you know, you can skip the review if you want to. This is mostly just a review of the Snyder Cut and a reflection on the original. And you can go to part 4 and 5, which talk about my idea that I had, and it's mostly just an epilogue. But yeah, if you don't want to waste your time, because I know this is going to be a really long video, you can just go there. I might leave a thingy in the description, but do what you want. So getting back to the 2017 release, from what you can tell from their filmmaking, you must wonder why in the hell they chose him. And if you didn't know, he made the Avengers movie, Joss Whedon, and that plus money and good publicity pretty much inspired the whole thing, So, hold on. Sorry, I wrote the script, and I'm going for a completely different angle here. But, okay, yeah, never mind. Joss Whedon, hiring Joss Whedon kind of bit them in the ass, because with these colliding movie styles, it just didn't work. I mean, like, the movie was cut down at least 30 minutes in runtime. It made the Flash a bumbling moron. It made Cyborg a robot of a character. Get it. And Batman an alcoholic. Wonder Woman a statue. And Aquaman an asshole for no real reason. Steppenwolf was a brick wall of a character. And Superman actually acted like Superman, which was cool, I guess. It was like nice, but it wasn't consistent with his character in all the other movies where he kind of acted as this like humaneless demigod. But he now has a mouth of nightmares, so Whedon still got us in the end. And you probably already know about the contract shit that DC had to go through. They had to spend $3 million on the stash, so that happened. Besides characters, the plot really doesn't exist. It's like a thin line. Like, if you're gonna have a movie with these amount of characters, you want it to be dense. You want it to be thick. Think of the timeline. Think of it like this timeline needed to be like 2 to 3 inches thick, like 3-inch, like bulletproof glass. It is a thin piece of rope that like plays like a little bit of a whenever you hit it. So, not the best. That might just be me exaggerating a bit, but I watched this movie with my dad and his new wife in anticipation of the Snyder Cut, and they both had trouble following the plot. I already seen it, so I already kind of get the gist of it, but my dad's wife she said that it was jarring at some points, and I could totally see that. It completely just flips and stuff. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like super fast. And it kind of reminds me of The Rise of Skywalker. Do you remember when we got Star Wars movies every year or so? Good times. Anyways, Batman and Wonder Woman both recruit new members for the Justice League. Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg. Flash is willing to join on the spot, while Aquaman and Cyborg are resistant at first, but come around. While they're doing that, Steppenwolf is collecting the mother boxes to cause the Unity. He takes one of the boxes from the Amazons, then one from Atlanteans, and snatches Cyborg's box. While the team is distracted by fake lip Superman. The team resurrects Superman using a mother box and wakes up with a bad Botox surgery. Then Lois tells him to stop being weird, and they fly off to a CGI field. While Lois and Superman are having a moment on the green screen, the team is planning to launch an attack on Steppenwolf's base. They puke out a couple bad jokes. Aquaman is acting racially biased against black robot people, and then they find where Steppenwolf's been hiding. The final fight is kind of ugly and not that fun to look at, but the choreography is fine for the most part. There are some actually cute moments in the fight, and with Batman and Superman when they show up and editors use their classical themes. I kind of like that, and I wish Snyder kept it, but it's whatever. For some reason, Josh added a Russian family to raise the stakes, I guess. The audience doesn't know any of these people, so why would we care? Man of Steel did something similar with Perry White and an intern, but I digress. The Russian family subplot isn't good, and the joke at the end with the Flash isn't worth the amount of screen time those characters have. So, if you want to call them characters, they're more of just, plot items. The fight goes on for a couple minutes, but none of the characters do any sort of combo moves, which seems like a pretty easy concept to come up with. I actually do. It bothered me a lot. Cosmonaut Variety Hour actually pointed this out. And I know it sounds like I'm treading on his work, but no, I felt the same way. I didn't feel like any of them were like working together. Hell, they even there was a scene with the Wonder Woman where she was she went alone to go back for Batman. I saw this and I was like, well, that doesn't sound very teamly of you, And Cyborg said, if we would have left you, but the lady wanted to come back for you. And it's like, well, that's not, team spirit, but, but they do the combo moves in the Zack Snyder film, or the Snyder Cut, so, props to him for doing something right. In the end, Superman beats up Steppenwolf, he retreats back to his home world, and Cyborg successfully ununifies some other boxes with the help of Superman. All in all, the movie is mediocre when everything's laid out. It really just feels like a very low-tier Marvel film with horrendous editing. It's kind of like between Incredible Hulk and Iron Man. is what it feels like. In terms of like quality. When I said the editing itself was bad, I didn't necessarily mean it was like incomprehensible. If you understand the movie, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like, if you can keep up with it, you can keep up with it, but if you can't, you're gonna be lost. But it's not just that, it will also have sudden stops in pacing to tell a bad joke. And also, it will also try to be super serious, so it flip-flops between these two things. And also, considering reshoots, continuity is not non-existent. I'm pretty sure, Ralph the Movie Maker talked about this in his 2017 Justice League review a while back, and he was talking about another guy who mentioned that there was like bad continuity with like Aquaman's tattoos and whatnot, and hairline changes and camera angles. It's just stuff that doesn't seem noticeable at first, but when you see it again, it kind of just messes with you. It takes you out of the movie, and frankly, it feels like nothing was accomplished in the theatrical cut. I think that's the end of the point. Is nothing felt like it made progress. Nothing felt like a story. Nothing felt like it should have existed in the first place. Now those are out of this way, I want to talk about the jokes. I mentioned it earlier, but most of the jokes are, again, like low-tier Marvel in quality. They shatter the film tonally, and I'm glad only some of the good ones stayed for the Snyder Cut. Part 2. How the Snyder Cut changed and improved upon the original. There's another section of the video dedicated to some of the complaints I have with it, but this is mostly just, praising Zack Snyder for what he did right. I thought the Snyder Cut was very interesting to follow before its release, in my opinion. It's kind of like the equivalent to the Loch Ness Monster of movies. Like the equivalent to it, and that captivated me. I mean, the Snyder Cut was pretty much a joke at the beginning, and then over the years, DC realized that there was a lot of money tied to the idea. So they went to Zack, and I guess they were like, "Hey Zack, I know that everyone hates you for destroying our brand, but you know what? The fans have given us a change of heart. We want you to make the your original vision because we like money. We would like you to restore what you originally intended." And then producers would give a thumbs up and then like show one of those big used car salesman smiles. I think you know what I mean. Zack then goes. I imagine that Zack would go through this training montage like it's Rocky or Dragon Ball, where he does the hitting tires thing and throwing weights that Ben Affleck did in BVS, and then it cuts to him watching YouTube reviews of Man of Steel, BVS, and the original Justice League made by Ralph Cosmonaut and Chris Tuckman, and it's all in sped up slow-mo. So that's just how I imagine it going. I'm actually really happy that this movie got released, though. I didn't care if it was bad. Well, that's actually a bad way to phrase it. Like, I would care if it was a bad movie, concerning the stakes Zack had to go up against for this to be a bad movie. But I was just happy that Zack got to release his movie, and we weren't just left with the unfinished mess that was the theatrical cut. Zack, he made a lot of good decisions while making this cut of the film. He got rid of a lot of the jokes, like I said, mostly the bad ones. He turned down the saturation of the scenes and restored it back to its original color palette, which is much easier on the eyes compared to the original, which could pretty much blind you if you looked at it for too long, like it's the goddamn sun. But yeah, now you could say it's too desaturated and washed out now, but I prefer getting a little sleepy rather than having my retinas pierced, so take that as you will. Zach also added a lot of scenes to give a lot more context to the story and develop the characters. The story now gives a much more interesting dynamic between the cast. They still have the argument between Wonder Woman and Batman about if they should resurrect Superman, which I think either was it Diesel Patches or it was Cosmonaut that pointed that out and should be reversed. Which I obviously agree with, but whatever. Still treading on other bigger YouTubers' grounds. So, I'm a leech. But they also added an interesting relationship between Darkseid and Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf, instead of just being some random dude, which is hinted at, for him working for Darkseid or whatever, like barely in the original, or that's how I remember it anyways, and calling the mother boxes like an actual mom. He is now an underling of Darkseid that's been banished from his homeworld, or something like that. And he has to conquer around, like, I think it's 10,000 worlds in his name before he can come back, which might seem like Earth doesn't seem that much, like, it doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, but through, I think it's like a dream or something, or a premonition, Steppenwolf discovers the anti-life equation is built into the grounds of the Earth. By the way, the anti-life equation is a formula which can be used to control the minds of all intelligent life in the universe. When he discovers it, he tells Darkseid about it through this weird, like, hologram lava thing. And I can't remember if Darkseid tells him that when he has it, he can come back, or if he's just anxious and he hope he gets rewarded. But it just, either way, this just makes him want to conquer Earth even more. Giving Steppenwolf an actual goal this time to be accepted by a superior, which makes a lot more sense than just wanting to blow up the world because. Not to mention his new design, I believe, is really good, and it gives a glimpse into his like homeworld's architectural design. And similar design philosophies are used on Darkseid and his lackeys' costumes. Not to the scale Steppenwolf is, considering that's battle armor, but it's still made of like the metal flake type of design. But again, nowhere near the like living suit thing they were going for with Steppenwolf's new design. But another massive character upgrade, I believe, was Cyborg. I mentioned him via the pun about his character being robotic earlier because it's true. He's does almost nothing the entire time, and he's watered down to a GPS and a tracker, I guess. GPS and tracker are kind of the same thing, but not really. But yeah, he's downgraded to a like calculator for the team. He's kind of a glorified plot device. His powers are never really defined, and with that, the story can easily just have him say, I can do that when it comes to anything even remotely related to tech. In the Snyder Cut, though, he, as a character, and his powers are expanded upon. When Zack Snyder said that Cyborg was the heart of Justice League, I was kind of skeptical, and I was like, oh, what does that really mean, but when I saw the movie, I was actually really impressed with what he did with the character. But first I'm going to talk about his powers, because his powers in the movie, like I said, were given more context. His father explains through like this like scene where he has like a tape recorder, and it's called back to later in the film, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. His father explains that he has the ability to manipulate all technological systems on Earth, so he can pretty much go from editing the money, like the amount of money in bank accounts for single mothers, to launching nuclear missiles. So Like I said, I found it to be lazy writing for the original, but the Snyder Cut at least attempts to expand and give context to his powers, which also being explained in a very visually stimulating scene makes it a very much more tolerable moment in the movie, rather than just having this like Nintendo 64 model walk around saying, yeah, no, I found him using my hologram. But Cyborg, or Victor's actual character, is a much more noticeable upgrade though. We get his backstory, we get more context to Victor turning into Cyborg, and a lot more build up in the relationship between him and his dad. The weakest thing though about his character, ironically, is his motivation, which involves his dad. And the motivation's good. Was it? His dad dies, and that motivates him to go stop Steppenwolf, but the way it's executed, his dad superheats a mother box, supposedly in an attempt to destroy it, and he locks himself in the room with it. It didn't work, obviously, and now he's dead. But he could have easily not been in the room with him, with the mother box. He could have, so let me explain this. In the movie, if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like a room, and then there's another room with a box with the mother box, and the other room is made of glass, and it has like this tiny hole for the laser to superheat the box to go through. And he didn't need to be in the room with it. He locked himself in it for some reason. If it was like, well, now I can't even explain it, because now it sounds stupid to have someone put a wired button in the same room as the laser is going to heat up the mother box in. That sounds ridiculous. But it's like, it could have been executed so much better. Oh god, where am I in the script? I fell off. But it's an okay motivation at best. It's kind of generic. Father dies, so I have to go kill the villain. But his powers are also, oh shit, never mind. Wrong part of the script. But yeah, context. His dad's a scientist, and one of the tests they did on a mother box was to superheat it and making it hotter than the sun. I found it a bit excessive, but he can do him. This is a pretty good setup to the dad's death, but they made it, like I said, easy to be avoided. Be easily avoided. I thought maybe it's there's a lot of easy ways to avoid this. Just have him be in the other room, and then Steppenwolf could have swung his axe at him and killed him, and that could have been a cool callback to the moment where he's in the sewer system. I think that's what it is. When they're getting interrogated by him. I thought it would have been cool if Steppenwolf, right before he kills his dad, right before he tries to kill Cyborg's dad, and he gets interrupted by Wonder Woman, he looks at him and he says, "We'll finish this later." And then that would have been cool if he does that, and he swings his axe at him, and while he's bleeding out, he says, "We're finished now." That would have been a cool nice little bow to wrap it in. But Zack Snyder needed his person being vaporized into blue dust scene, so that's a thing. But onto the next two characters, I'm grouping Batman and Wonder Woman into the same category, because they're both the least interesting of the characters. Like I said, they have that weird reversed argument about Superman, but that's it. They don't do anything. They just don't, and it bothers me because I love Batman as a character, and I wish he had more to do, but compared to these other characters, he can't do anything. Like, they don't show his, like, intelligence or anything, and I don't even know what Wonder Woman's supposed to be at this point. Like I said, still kind of a statue. But, you know, whatever. It's kind of the same thing with Superman, but he actually gets some cool scenes. Was it one of them? Superman jumping into the final fight with Steppenwolf was probably the best use of his varied powers. That didn't make them look silly, because in the original cut of the movie, he does this like stupid, silly, like you can't imagine it, but like, well, you probably could, but like the way he did it was like his ice breath was kind of goofy looking. In this one, it's kind of like a shotgun blast, like a, and then like a, I don't know how to make a noise like that, but it like freezes his axe instantly, and then he shatters it. Like, he freezes Steppenwolf's axe instantly, and then he shatters it. And then he like lasers his eyes into his chest, and then cuts off one of Steppenwolf's horns, which I thought was funny. And then he just proceeds to beat the shit out of him. He's like pinned to the ground, and just constantly, like, just shock waves coming off of Steppenwolf's chest. And then also the scene with Alfred was pretty cute. That's all I have to say, though, about them. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, we have the really interesting characters, or the really interesting character, I might say, which is the Flash. Now, I did say the Cyborg was the best character in the movie, but Flash is probably the most unique and thought-provoking character. I'm not saying he has, like, smart dialogue or whatever, but yeah, he probably has the single-handedly coolest-looking scene in a superhero movie ever, and that's a pretty big hole to fill. Not to mention the writing and the music in the scene. I do wish they kept that one song Danny Elfman made for The Flash, but again, it's okay, because there was also another song they replaced The Flash's theme with, which was pretty good. Like I already said, they cut out a lot of the awful jokes and gave Flash a couple new scenes. One of them, the other scene is him saving, I think it's Iris West. I don't know. She doesn't get a name. It's kind of creepy, but like it has another cool visual where he touches the glass and it looks like it's liquefying for a second, but that's just it shattering in slow speeds. But you know, that's pretty cool. It actually shows a side of the Flash. That scene with Iris actually shows a side of the Flash visually that we didn't have to express in the bad brunch joke. It's about how he feels distant from other people because he can't get on the same wavelength as normal pace people. The Flash scene I was talking about, the cool one, he phases through the singularity blast and starts talking himself up, which is pretty cool, and it's kind of inspiring. Like, you can tell he's just a kid and he's super scared and he has no idea what he's doing, but he knows he has to take action now. And the way he does it, he talks, it's kind of like, I forgot what it's called. Oh God, give me a second. He echoes his what his dad said to him, where it's like you make your past, you make your future, but you have to live in the present, or something like that. But it's really cool. And he says that like your son was one of the best of the best, which is also another reference that his dad to what his dad says. And he starts reversing time, and it looks super cool. And then he like pretty much is the reason the world's saved. But but that's really cool. But it's also it's built up to really well. He does a miniature version of like the stopping time thing when he has to go resurrect Superman. On that note, though, I've tried to figure out why the Flash runs the way he does. I know now that it's actually Ezra watched like some martial arts or whatever and saw how they ran like some martial art masters ran in some like Asian country. He like traveled there for the movie, like to understand a new way of running. And it's also a mixture of trying to make it look dynamic. But I've heard, like I searched it up and I saw that maybe it was a reference to the ice skating, to the ice skating thing he mentioned, like competitive ice skating, or because maybe in the Speed Force it's a lot trickier than we perceive it to be to run in it, or that he's maybe just inexperienced. I also saw that maybe Snyder and Ezra just don't know how to run. But you know, that's funny. Yeah, so the theory I came up with is that his Speed Force doesn't exactly make him run, but it's more like a rubber band. Or a strong push. So that's why he has to like fling his arms out so he can keep pushing, like throwing himself. But whatever, it's irrelevant. I just thought it was interesting. But all I really wanted out of this character was him to be a little less annoying and have one cool looking scene with his super speed, which I got, so I'm happy with him. So you know. Now on to the next part. Part 3, what I didn't like about the Snyder Cut. Now, don't get me wrong, the Snyder Cut is a much better movie than the theatrical release. But there are still some complaints I have with this version of the movie. The first thing I didn't like was the CGI. It is not good. Well, for the most part, there are still some great looking parts, like Steppenwolf the entire time, and Darkseid to some extent look great. Like I mentioned, the lava hologram looks pretty cool, and all Flash's scenes are pretty much perfect. But other than that, like things like Wonder Woman and like the Amazon scene all look pretty awful still. And I get it, it was reshoots for $30 million. That's not enough to fix up all the CGI. Probably spent a lot of it on the new Steppenwolf design, so you know, that's that. And so not a lot of money was going to be thrown around to it anymore because it's been strangled to death for having at least 3 different cuts of the movie. The original that Snyder was going to make, and then the Sweden version, and then now the official Snyder Cut. So much money has been thrown at this movie. I can see why some of it had looked unfinished. The second thing I really didn't like about the movie was the excessive amount of scenes with just slow-mo and like slow motion and really sad, gloomy music in the background. It looks nice and sounds nice for the first time, but by the 5th, you're just wondering how much shorter the movie could have been if they just decided not to slow down all these shots, which I might add segues pretty flawlessly into my next complaint, which is the runtime. The runtime for this movie is atrociously long. I said atrociously with an A, I'm sorry. At a gargantuan 4 hours. You could watch it in hours or in 2-hour bites, but the whole first half is built up to the second half, which can make the first half kind of boring if you're in that mentality. I even dozed off for like 10 minutes watching this movie just because it felt like nothing was really happening. Not that it's like horrifically boring, because there are bits of action sprinkled throughout the first half, but it's definitely not as interesting or as exciting as the second half. The next thing also has to do with the runtime, which is that some information is just said multiple times throughout the movie. I mean, I don't know if this was like an error or like what in the script, but it really threw me off and it like took me out of the movie. Like Steppenwolf like says his plan like 2 to 3 times, and Batman says his plan 2 to 3 times, and it's just stuff gets repeated and I don't understand why. It's like you look at it and you're like, why? Like, You already said that, Steppenwolf. We all know. The audience knows now. So, and Desaad knows. So, he's known since the beginning. So he didn't even have to say anything. But he did twice. But whatever. The next complaint I have is the Martian Manhunter. I can tell that his character was being built up through the movies, and I could tell the General was probably going to be him, or it was going to be a Green Lantern, John Stewart. But, god damn. It's like he just pops out of nowhere, and you don't. I would have wished, instead of in the scene with Lois and what's her name, Clark's mom, Martha, or whatever her name was, it's like he walks out of the door disguised as Clark's mom and then just transforms into Martian Manhunter and then transforms back into his human form, and there's no reason for it besides to show you that he is the Martian Manhunter. And I really didn't like it. He's kind of ugly and it's just not good. I like the Martian Manhunter. He needs more screen time. He's a character that's not really explored as much as others like Superman and Batman, but not like that. Again, it's a cheap model because he only had $30 million to fix it up, but hopefully the CGI gets fixed in Justice League 2, probably, or Black Adam, or whatever he's gonna be in next. But yeah, part 4. What the DCEU can now be, thanks to the Snyder Cut. So we're in the almost last section of the video. There's another section which is purely epilogue. It's been around 37 minutes of me just talking. So, that's great. I just wanted to say at the beginning of this, if you have watched through the entire video, sorry, I have hiccups or something. I don't know what it is. Yeah, so if you've made it this far into the video, thank you. It's this side project / passion project has been a real undertaking for me, and has, like I said, taken a couple weeks to just write the script out. And you being at this point means so much to me. And also, if you're just one of the guys that decided to skip to part 4, thank you for even investing some of your interest into the part of the video I was most happy or excited to record. So, again, thank you. I have a lot more ideas for future videos that I'm really excited to write out, and I hope that you are too. So again, thank you again for watching. This is something I've worked really hard on. Anyways, let's get back to my idea for this multi-billion-dollar movie franchise. So it feels like a weight has been lifted off my chest getting to this point in the video and being able to talk about this idea, which is the whole spark for this video. This whole over a half hour long journey, and I'm finally getting to it. So but first I want to mention what the Snyder Cut's role in DC's future is. I believe it acts as the clean slate for the company's film reputation. Zack Snyder has completed his overarching vision, and with that, a new saga of films can now be explored. And now finally, I am going to talk about what this video is named after. What I believe this DCEU can now do is explore this nightmare narrative in a very unique way. It has been proposed, and I think they need to just dive head into it. My idea is that each movie that involves Batman in some substantial form in this like DCEU, what is it called? DCEU continuity, like that. Like, okay, hold on, I'm gonna rephrase that. Involves Batman in some substantial form in the DCEU continuity should have at least 5 to 10 minutes at the end of each movie to explore this separate dark timeline narrative, almost as if it was a small anthology series that can foreshadow events in later movies, or it's a reflection of the current movie that you're watching. And eventually, after they build up to the fight with Darkseid, this nightmare timeline and the normal timeline will clash in some way. Either it's revealed that there's a timeline that Flash failed to fully reverse, or if it's one where Darkseid won a fight against the Justice League and Barry doesn't know how to reverse, or if it's just something like that, it's probably going to be linked to the Flash in some way. I think it just needs to become something bigger. I know that this is probably obvious what they are doing. This is probably what they were doing, but I just wanted to talk about the idea because I find it so interesting, and I don't think any movie franchise has ever really done anything like this. It can become what I believe a sequence of non-linear events that, when put together in a certain order, can create a hour to 2 hour long narrative over the movies, or probably like 50 minutes being realistic, but 2 hours of the Dark Knight timeline would be great. Or not Dark Knight, the Nightmare timeline, or whatever it's called, Nightmare with a K, which could explain what the setting is exactly, what the events are happening, like what events happened in this version, like in this universe. Like I said, it can create a pretty cool mini movie, and I would love to see this come into fruition. Now, I know this idea may seem a little anticlimactic considering the build up to it, but so much can be done with it. I think it was worth at least having its own section. We already got a glimpse of how these characters act and react differently to each other. I'd love to see a Joker and Batman team up, and what possible plot points that can hold, which it's going to happen. Either it's in Justice League 2 or whatever. I'd love to see more of Cyborg's and Flash's personality in this timeline. I'd love to see how Deathstroke and Batman talk to each other, because of he probably had a hand in kicking Robin's ass a handful of times. I would just love to see scenes like this because it's just so interesting to me. So with this idea, it can kind of create its own entry into the DCEU's line of movies. There could also be like a completely edited version of these little movies together, like these little shorts together, and it can be put on like the DC YouTube channel, or it can be put on HBO Max, which would be an instantly great selling point to go across with the Snyder Cut. Not across, with the Snyder Cut. So, DC hire me, which would be pretty cool, like the whole HBO Max or YouTube thing, which would be kind of cool. I'd also like to see what else Jared Leto can do with the Joker character, because I really like the deranged Dr. Seuss take. It's pretty similar to his Suicide Squad performance. He's still got that weird moan cackle that he does. I don't mind it that much, but the design of him is pretty cool. Besides the bloodstained mouth, I don't like that. But Zack Snyder said the police vest with all the badges are his trophies from dead cops, which I thought was a nice little touch. But he this version of his character is a lot more deranged and not over the top and try hard. That's the main thing. The difference between this and his Suicide Squad performance, it doesn't feel like he's try-harding it. It feels like this is coming much more natural. He has a lot more. This is this 5 second or 30 second scene, or 2 minute scene or whatever. of him has more memorable lines in it compared to the entirety of Suicide Squad, which he didn't have that much like screen time in it. But and he also does a pretty fucking sick card trick, which the card acts as a symbol of alliance between him and Bruce. So more Nightmare Joker, please. That would be great. And while we're on that topic, I would love to see a Robin flashback at some point. We don't have to fully see him unless they want to cast him now, like probably Robert Egerton or whatever. But a scene of Joker beating the shit out of a dude in a red chest plate with a yellow R would also suffice. Anyways, I'm done talking about my idea, which I didn't think was really that big, like mega brain blast as it should have been, like to build up to it this far. But it's just really interesting and fun to talk about and get excited about the possibilities of this franchise. So, part 5, epilogue. So, we are at the end. This is the end of my video. I know that's kind of abrupt, but that's all I have to really say. I'm just so glad that I'm able to release this and have other people see it, and hopefully have people enjoy it for however long they decide to enjoy it. So again, thank you for watching my video, and I hope when I make another video that's definitely not going to be as long or as taxing on my mental states as this one was. I hope you guys come back for that. This channel was originally going to just be a gaming channel, but now I'm going to use it as a platform of varied content. So the next video, I believe, will have something to do with Mario Sunshine or the new Suicide Squad movie. So if you're interested, or if you ever get bored, come back to the channel and see if there's anything you like. And thank you again for watching.